First, I'll tell you a story. There was a traveler who went on his business all around the world. And he would go to country A and do some business, cross over to country B and take a little vacation, go to country C, seeing the sights, combining business with pleasure. He traveled all over the world, countries from A to Z. And he enjoyed himself. He was free. He walked all around, crossed over one border to the next constantly over a period of time. But after a while, as he was wandering around these different countries, he noticed something. He noticed that a man or a woman in country A was confined to country A. Man in country B never crossed over to country A or C or D or E. He was always in country B. Nobody ever left their own particular country to cross over to the other places. And he thought this was tragic and strange because he didn't understand it. He himself could go all over, and he wondered why they couldn't just cross over and go to where he does. So he asked a number of people, Sir, a resident citizen of country A, do you know that there's another world beside your country here? And the average citizen would look at him and question his question. And he would explain. He'd say, look, do you know the beautiful mountains over in country M over there? Great lakes over in country X? New things to see, place to explore, adventures, things to learn, educational in country V, whatever. Told them all about it. No one made the slightest effort to go outside of their own individual border. And he understood it because he watched them. He watched them as they gave their lying reasons for not leaving country X, Y, Z, whatever it was, and going to the other one. You could just tell that there's something wrong with the individual. Now, you know what I'm talking about? If you don't, I'll explain it to you. Country A is a state of mind of that man over there. Country B is a state of mind of the lady over there. Country C, someone in the back row back there, and on down the alphabet. You all have your own tight little places. You live in the center of your country, and you take a trip, maybe 3 miles out that way from the capital. You don't dare go any further, lest you get too close to the border. And so you come back to the center, and the next day maybe you go 6 miles out that way. You always return to the center of the country. Why? That's all you know. That's all you've ever experienced. And when someone tries to tell you of the wonders of another country, of the whole world, when someone tells you something besides your individual land, tries to tell you about universality, you don't want to listen because you say, that can't be understood by me, therefore it must be wrong. If I don't understand it, it must be harmful for me. Which is the very harmful statement in itself. That's the very thing. The statement coming from the thought, from the attitude, from the frozen emotion is the very thing that confines you, and you won't stop talking that way. Do you know, as an experiment, 1 out of 10,000 you could do, you could start talking in a new way and begin to break that fear that comes up when you get too near the borderline of your country and something new and strange is out there. And I've given a lot of them to you. I've given you so many, you've forgotten half of them. How many of you have your favorite cliches? Now look, I'm not talking altogether about those you say out to other people. Well, great day, see you later, let's kick it around a little. What's your favorite phrase? Go say it to yourself and we'll kick it around a little. Internally, the parrot repeats parrot-like sounds and voices to himself. And how about parroting duplicated emotional reactions? You always react the same. You refuse to go up to the borderline and cross over into something different. We can get into that perhaps a little bit later too. How you can dare to not be yourself. How you can dare to go beyond everything that's familiar to you, everything that's in its right place. Now look, that is called identification. That is called loving what you think you are, not what you really are, but what is so familiar that you won't dare beyond it, lest it scare you, and you are already scared and you don't see the illogic of it. All of you in this room are scared human beings. You're more than that. All of you. Was your first time or your 5,000th time? You're terrified. Now, let me go a little bit more into illogic. Since you are terrified, which you lie about and hide from yourself and hide from your wife or husband, since you are, that is an inescapable fact. And that is a result of you living within your own little personal borders. Now please, a fact about yourself can be dissolved. It can be dissolved. Your terror of life can be dissolved. Now I'm telling you that. But not if you're going to listen to the only thing you now know, which is everything within the confinement of the borders of your mind. Look, I'm going to give you a taste, a hint of something different than what you've got. You with your hard faces and hard minds, shame on you, behaving that way in front of your children, in front of anyone, in front of the waitress. You're right in the center of things, refusing to see because you're afraid that if you go over the border, that you will lose you. For heaven's sake, don't you know why you're here on earth? It's to do that. You're here on this earth. You think it's here to make money? How dumb are you? To win ego victories over people. You're here on earth to not be you. You think you've got it just backwards. You think the purpose is to stay inside the circle and pretend it's the only place that exists, and so perpetuate and repeat you all day long. Let me repeat one of my favorite questions to you. How do you like living with yourself? Come on. How do you like it? Yeah, you try to lie out of that. Try to lie out of that. I'm going to do it again. How do you like living with yourself? How do you like living with your own mind, your own feelings? Pretty good description of hell, huh? And you are going to sit in this room and lie about it? It's about time you stopped. Don't you think so? You don't think so? You'd better think so. See, the person who suffers from hell is the person who lives in hell. And for you new people, let me explain something that you haven't heard before probably. It's so important, and all of you, it's so important for you to get it. To be in love with a hell of self-confinement, to not want to go beyond the border, to be in hell is one thing. But to have lived so long without listening to the voice coming from beyond the border to tell you to get out of there, to live so long in it, is the tragedy of human life in its fullest form. I am talking about you here in this room here tonight and hearing this cassette tape. I'm talking about all of you, new people or old people, having a chance to listen before you get so enclosed within yourself that you're not even interested in finding something outside of your own petty, miserable, greedy, concealed little circle of life. You can listen right now. You can listen to what I'm saying now. And you can see within yourself, if you're a good self-watcher, you can see within yourself a lot of things that are frozen, that don't want to hear this. A lot of things that are arguing with what I'm saying. Look, let me tell you. I know this as well as I know that light is up there. I know that you're mentally arguing and emotionally arguing because you're afraid. Fear always argues. I better tell you something. Please, I'm on your side. You argue in vain. See, you think in your stupidity that anyone or anything who doesn't agree with your sickness must be an enemy. Anyone who agrees with your neurosis must be a friend. That's your sickness. Can you see it? Could we just slow down a little bit right now and give a little bit of a conscious shock to the dark forces inside of you that wants to prevent you from hearing and absorbing what could get you outside of that circle? Look, and I'm going to give you good news. Here it is. Finally, get to it. The spirit of liberty, which you can develop inside of yourself a little bit every day, lots every day if you work hard. The spirit of liberty, which is the same as the Spirit of God, if you want to get religious about it. The spirit of liberty is happy because it is living in the entire universe. See, it can cross the border. It's not afraid of anything new or strange, not afraid of a challenge. It can go to A, to Z, to M, to X, anywhere it wants to go, and be perfectly free and happy. There is no mental confinement at all to the Spirit of truth. Now you see, I'm going to give you a chance to, first of all, to see that you're not free. And if you see that you're not, you can say to yourself, just a minute. Something was described to me that is different from my pettiness, from my confinement, something different from my fantastic conceit that I already understand what I'm supposed to be doing here in the world. You see, when an individual gets to the border, instead of deliberately walking over it while in his fear, in spite of his fear, walking over it to find the new, he falls back lest, listen to what I'm going to say, and let me finish the whole thought before you conclude. He falls back lest he lose his life, he says. You walk up to the border and you see a new mountain over there, you see a new person over there, a new idea over there, and because it's unfamiliar, it's not like you fall back and you say, danger, I better run home real fast. That is different from me, therefore it must be wrong. You ever caught yourself doing that? Now hang on. And you then conclude that if you go over that border, you say in your fear, I will lose my life. My dear ladies and gentlemen, you don't have any life to lose. How can you lose life when you don't have it? You don't have it tonight, seated right in front of me. Can't you see the enormous lie, the trick, the foolishness, the deception, the destruction that you've played on yourself? If not, come back to every class till you do. You say, if I listen to what he's saying, if I go over the border, I'll lose my life. You have none. How stupid can you get to think that you and your concealed confusion and your suppressed hatred have life? Talk about human ignorance. What are you doing to yourself? And next question, when are you going to stop? You have to decide that, don't you? You have to decide when you're going to stop wrecking yourself by going up and bouncing against the border out there and saying, thank heaven I escaped destruction, and you turn around about face and you go right back to destruction. Do you know what? Oh, maybe you don't understand what destruction is. I'll tell you. To live in destruction, to waste your life, means for you to continue to be tomorrow the way you were today. Isn't this simple? Aren't you delighted with the simplicity of this? That you can see it if you want. Well, haven't you noticed that as you grow older, that you grow scareder? Haven't you noticed that? Haven't you noticed you get more confused? The physical body changes somewhat and you worry about that. Haven't you noticed that? All right. Now, if that is stupidity, which it is, what is intelligence? I'll tell you what intelligence is. It means that you will join with the truth and with the people here in this room who have joined the truth to successively go from the center of country A to go up to the border, and in great screaming and hollering and fear of destruction go across. And let me tell you, it's absolutely fascinating where you go with things. It's fascinating. Listen, I'll tell you what will happen. You're in the middle of nation A. You go up to the border, and all your life, a little mechanical habit of yours is to, when you get close to a new idea, a new principle, a new spiritual tenet, whatever you call it, when you get up there, your habit has been to get up there and the mechanical part stop and go back. Now, without the help of the truth that you'll find in this class, that's all you'll ever do. I guarantee you, if you were sitting here lost tonight, which you are, lost means you're confined to one place, and if you don't join with the truth itself to help you go over, you'll go back to the center, and then because you know that you're lost, you lie to yourself, and in the center of country A, you'll say, this is the center of the universe. You know, I better tell you what that's called. That's called insanity. That's called delusion. That's called kidding yourself. It's called being an unconscious maniac. Do you know that anyone who lives in the very center of country A, B, C, whatever, I'm talking about various religious countries, ideas, you understand? Anyone who lives in the center of it is loaded with violence. Who do you hate? Who do you hate? Well, it has to be someone. You can't live without hatred. That's your food. And you feed yourself every day, don't you? All right. We're on to it. We're on to this self-deceit. And we're not going to tolerate it anymore. Listen to what I'm saying, and then I'll explain to you. We're not going to tolerate self-deceit anymore, regardless of what it costs us. You know what's going to cost you to go over the border? It's going to cost you your misery. Well, you're miserable? How many people are you secretly afraid of? How about the boss? How about your spouse? How about you afraid of your children because you don't know how to handle them? You don't know how to deal with your own children. You fear they may take advantage of you, which they will if they get half a chance, quarter of a chance. And you feel guilty if you don't give them $5. Why don't you go through the guilt, go over the border on that one little thing sometime? Don't give your child $5 just to appease your guilt over slapping him when he was 10 years old. Why don't you give him something worth the whole universe instead of $5? Well, anyway, if you will join us, join Truth, and go up and and we'll show you how to, instead of responding to the mechanical part of your mind and emotions, your habits, in other words, of running away, running back when the truth is presented you, such it is tonight. Instead of running away and lying as you go out the door to who you go with. Notice how you can't stop talking when you go out the door? That's because you're made so nervous, you have to relieve your nervousness, and you tell lies as you go out the door, which will destroy you. That's your path self-destruction. That's up to you. I'm glad I don't have to live with you or be around you. We will help you go up to the border and, while nervous and scared and in fear of destruction, we will help you of yourself to cross the border. We'll help you go across. And for the first, I'm using an illustration, you understand? For the first hour that you step across the border from country A to country B, for the first hour, it would be, I tell you, it's a horrible experience. A horrible experience that turns to healing. You see? See what you've done? Back in country A, you've left a part of your neurosis, your habitual thinking, your self-righteousness, your belief that you already know, which are lies. You left all your lies behind. And you're uncomfortable for the first hour in country B because you don't quite know how to lie quite as well as you used to. See, it's been weakened. Oh, by the way, you understand that there are 26 letters in the alphabet in 26 countries. This is just the beginning. Isn't that encouraging? I'll tell you why it's encouraging. Because every time you cross from A to B, B to C, C to D, and so on, you get new. And you become in charge of every country that you enter and leave. Your spirit becomes in charge of it because it's not frightened anymore by what it sees. So you keep going, keep going, keep going. And every time you do, you look back and you see how foolish you've been. Have any of you ever crossed even from A to B yet? Anyone ever done that? You know what I'm talking about? Understood something just a little bit. Now, what you're doing when you make this journey from A to Z, what is different about it is something that, please don't imagine it as I talk to you or you'll go wrong. There is the spirit of guidance, capital S, capital G, if we were to write it down. There is a spirit of guidance which you know nothing about, but which is not of your mind. The mind belongs in A, B, X, Y, Z. And it's confined to each little corner. For example, one of the confinements of your mind is your idea of who you are. And when you have an idea of who you are, then you also have an idea of how other people should respect and love who you are. And you have nothing to love at all. You have the word love and you go around talking about how much you love others. You don't love anyone. You know why you don't love anyone? Because you don't love truth. What incredible nerve you have to say you love your children. You love your wife or husband. You love your parents. You love all mankind. What incredible nerve you have to make that statement when you have the slightest idea of what love is. You have the word, and you take the word as being the thing, and you repeat the word. This is called hypocrisy. And a hypocrite, of course, is punished by his own hypocrisy, living in hell. And then look at the demands you put on people to love you as if there is someone there to love, which there isn't. Forget it! I'll tell you what to talk about. I'll tell you what to think about. A subject that you are perfectly well acquainted with because you live with it all day long. It's part of you. It's your motivating force. It's your aim. It's your desire. It's your love. I'm talking about hatred again. That's all you have. Poor, pathetic little man. Poor, pathetic little woman living in country A. Oh yes, forgot to tell you. All inhabitants of country A hates everyone else in country A. Because everyone sets themselves up as being an ideal, nice person, all that, and everyone else should respect them. And everybody says, yes, I love you, let's get married. Or, I love you, let's join this political group. I love you, let's get together and sew doilies together. Those are little things, I think, like that, I think. Aren't they? Yes. Okay. Words, pretenses, stage performances, playing out the act. And anyone who applauds you, you say, oh, I love that person. You don't love him. What you do is hate him for not applauding you more and affirming your phony self-image you have of yourself. Need is greed. Write it down. There's the poem of the night. Neurotic need is greed. Notice you can't get enough flattery. Come on. How many of you can't get enough flattery? How many of you can't get enough of other people telling you how great you are? Notice that you can't get enough of other people telling you how right you are? If you want anyone to tell you you're right, that's perfect evidence you're wrong. A right person never thinks about whether he's right or not. He doesn't have to. A right person is right by the Spirit of liberty. And the Spirit, which is not of his own human personality, tells him rightness. Not him being right. You see, you always grab everything and try to personalize it. You say, for example, okay, you tell me how I can be right. You can't be. You have tried being right all your miserable life, and you've never been right once, spiritually speaking. And even mentally, you're just right accidentally. To be right, therefore, is something that occurs as you go from A, B, C, D, and on down until you've visited every country, and never settled down to camp and live in any of them. Haven't you noticed how you've done this? How you've settled down in a camp? How many religions have you been in? You know? How many cults have you been in? Huh? How many philosophic groups? Literature study groups? Sewing circles? Cooking classes? Haven't you noticed how bored you get after the first recipe for baked chili? Cooked chili? Doesn't last very long. Oh! How about boyfriends and girlfriends? Notice how quickly you get bored with that boyfriend, ladies? You know, if you'd taken a good look at him in the first place, right? I am absolutely speechless in my delight of the fact that we can come here several times a week and hear something that won't give up on us. Even if you give up on yourself, truth won't. You want to use the word God? Even if you give up on yourself, God won't, but you have to be here. You dumbheads. You think you can go out there and do it on your own? Look at the result of your life as you're seated here now by doing it on your own. I talked about incredible nerve. I wish I had a dictionary so I could think of a synonym far more stronger than that. Monstrous egotism. How's that? That you think, in your super sickness, in your psychopathic thinking, that you can do it yourself. You are your own worst enemy, and you don't even see that. You whoever you are listening to this, you just slow down just a little bit and ponder what you've heard tonight. And pray, desire, wish that it will occur to you. That's all you've ever done is protect yourself within the little circle of country A, thinking in your limited thinking that is all there is. And the greatest horror of humanity is that an individual who thinks that is all there is, he also thinks that is all he wants. And he tries to convince himself that all he wants is within that circle of social chaos, of inner turmoil, which you lie about. I want to emphasize that, then we have to stop. Your whole day today and all your days in the past and in the future, unless you come here every class and learn, all your day consists of suppressed insanity. There's no way you can get out of that. Every one of you know I'm telling you the truth. Why don't you listen to that instead of listening to the sickness that wants you to drag you out of here and take you back to those sick psychopathic friends of yours who will lie to you, and heaven help you if you listen to them. You've been doing it all your life. That's why you haven't been here earlier. Because your friends tell the same lies you do, and that's what you want because they confirm your lies that you're decent and okay, and you're not at all. A sight of the destruction within yourself will, with honesty, lead to the sight of salvation, of deliverance. You must be in this room. You are not going to make it without it. I know your stupid reactions. You always react that way. Without this room, I tell you the truth, you are not going to make it. With this truth, you have a chance to make it. With the truth in this room. Take a break. We waste our lives looking for exterior solutions to inner problems. As much as that is pointed out to you, as much as it occurs to you in your own mind as you go through your day, we insist upon hoping for what we call a favorable change in exterior events in order that we might feel better. A change in events, an occurrence of events. You hear something unfavorable to you that seems threatening to you, that causes you pain, and you live in that pain and get a certain amount of enjoyment out of it. And then you make the next mistake of hoping to hear contrary news to what you originally heard. This means, it should be obvious to you, that you are trying to find solutions that should be found inwardly by waiting for the winds to turn in a different direction. Now, again, this is the way the world lives, and I expect that we're here to do something different with it. In the first place, something comes along. Why do you get disappointed at all? Why are you so frequently disappointed at news, events? Why be disappointed at all? Because, of course, there is something wrong in you that likes to respond in pain, anxiety. Have you ever thought that you would rather feel something than know something? Now slow down on that. How many feelings that hurt you today unknowingly, because you don't even know you hurt yourself with your own feelings. How many feelings did you have today that were a mighty poor substitute for an intelligent, clear-minded reaction? You're in love with your feelings, and that is just the beginning of the tragedy. When you live from anxiety, for example, that's a good general word, isn't it? Covers a lot of ground, worry. When you live from anxiety, don't you know that there is force in that? Don't you know there's energy in that? Don't you know there's energy in a crashing airplane and an erupting volcano? A lot of energy in that. And that wild, reckless, furious, hateful energy spills to the outer world. That energy that's in you, the false energy, spills to the outer world and goes in 10,000 different insane directions. And listen to this, and maybe illustration will help you. I want you to know that you're surrounded by a rubber wall. And whatever you throw out there, that rock, it must bounce back. In the first place, it doesn't even need to bounce back for you to feel it. You've got it. You got a sharp rock in your hand. You've got the sharp rock in your hand right now, and you feel it, but you throw it out. It must, by a certain law, a very low-level law that you live on, bounce back and hurt you. And your pain, listen to me, your pain is now one of your greatest pleasures. As a matter of fact, you live for pleasure-pain. There's a very main topic I want to talk about tonight, and let me introduce it as we go along and then come back to it a little bit. Whoever you are listening to me now, I want you to know that you don't have any more time to waste in foolishness. You don't have any more time to waste in being anxious and being concerned with what's going to happen to you. You don't have any more time to waste in closing your eyes to the realities of your situation. I want you to remember, if you've forgotten it, remember now, your life, my life, is an extremely serious business. You don't know how serious it is. Now, what are you doing with your trivialities and your frivolous waste of it? How can I get through to any of you here that you are, all of you here seated in front of me, have done nothing but waste your life? You've thrown it away simply because you haven't known any better. You wouldn't do it if you knew what you're doing. If you knew how harmful it is for you to only possess a negative reaction to hearing news, for example, if you knew what harm was in that alone, you wouldn't do it, you couldn't do it, and you would get rightly serious. And You say, I've been to all the classes, and I've studied, and I've read all the books. I haven't changed a bit. I have no power over that bit of information that came to me. I have no power over that sour look someone gave me. I have no power over myself. All I am is a reactive machine that reacts on the level of the news. I call it bad news. I call it bad news because I think there's a me in me that should have had the good news. Part of your education will be one day you'll see there's no such thing as good news or bad news for you because there's no you there to receive it, and that is the best news you could ever hear in your whole life. I'll tell you a little story, then I want to get back to this business of lack of proper seriousness, right attention to what you're supposed to be doing. You come in here and you hear a talk, and you wander out again, nothing having penetrated. Or I'll tell you how you can know whether what you're hearing right now and earlier has penetrated your mind. You want to hang around here. You want to come back as soon as you can. You know why? Just a little bit of that hunger you have. You know how hungry you are to find something right. You don't even know what it is or where to look for it. But there's just a little bit of hunger that you've had has been satisfied. And you can't help yourself. Isn't that nice? Whereas before you couldn't help yourself when you stamped out of here angry and snarling and critical. You can't help yourself but get back here at every opportunity and engage in the spiritual battle. Here's a story, then we'll apply it a little bit. Here's a famous art expert, not a painter himself, but he arranges art exhibitions all around the country. And he features the paintings of a famous artist, whoever he might be, or who, Michelangelo. Features the paintings of a great artist. Goes around Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, wherever, and puts on displays. So, with big advertising, of course, and a lot of people are interested in the artwork. So, wherever he goes, there's crowds coming, big crowds to see the famous works of art. They travel them by steamship rather than airplane to keep them safer, and they pad them up all well, and they deliver them. One day, during one of the exhibitions, a very sour-faced, critical man walked in, and it was obvious there was something wrong with him. And he walked down they have the ropes, so you can't get too close. Walking back with the ropes and started muttering, criticizing the paintings, making all kind of odd, weird remarks about them. And caught attention of the people around. They looked at him and wondered if they should go get the curator, I guess they call it. So finally they did, and the curator came and he said, "Oh, I know that man. Wherever I go, he's there. There's just something wrong with him. You can't appreciate what's true, what's good. We're given a parallel, this is truth we're talking about, those paintings, that's what they represent. You can't appreciate it, and so he has to criticize. Yes, he needs something to hate. He needs something to snap at. And I'll tell you, if you were to follow this man home, you'll find, get the parallel, you'll find his home is a mess. We used to track him down and try to talk to him, but it didn't do any good. His home is a mess with weird mottos on the wall and just a total mess like his life is. Somewhere in every human being there is that very same attitude of coming in contact with something that is superior to themselves. And so we criticize and hate and reject simply for the false feeling of life it gives us. And oh, how wasteful. See, let me tell you the difference. Maybe this is so simple it will hit you right. There's a difference between a man who goes to the art exhibit and sees these great works of art. There's a difference in him inside, and then in the man who comes to criticize and to hate and to attack. Oh, and the difference is that the first man, the appreciative man, is happy, he's sane, he's in command of himself. He's not a slave. Free. The other man's a complete slave. Now, this man, this critic of the artwork, was an anxious man, right? Here you are, right in the middle of a place where you could rebel tremendously against your anxiety, your wish to criticize. You criticize because you're anxious, you don't know who you are. Now you know who you are, you're a critic. That's madness. I'll give you a method so simple, there's no way you can miss it. But you have to be very observant to what's going through your mind all day long. How many of you have been anxious today? Anxious? All raise your hand, every one of you. How many, when you're anxious, want to push it away? You want the good news. You want the alleviating words. You want someone to come and tell you that you're okay after all. You want a smile from someone. How come you love the tension, the anxiety of waiting for someone else to smile at you? I can tell you the answer to that very briefly. It's because you'd rather be enslaved than be free. All right. Now, you have this anxiety. Now, here's the method. Now, you try it. You're not going to feel it. I know you can't feel it because your feelings aren't in accord. You don't have higher emotions yet. But you have this anxiety over anything, future, whatever. I want you to start talking to it consciously. I want you to tell it that you no longer have time for it. If you're walking around the criminal part of town, and all kind of thugs and robbers and bandits came up, you'd tell them, I don't have time for you in one way or another. You would tell them that. You'd avoid them in the first place. Someone comes up and bothers you in some way, hits you up for money or whatever, you tell them you don't have time for them. Wouldn't you do that? Of course you would. You'd tell them. Because you understand that your social life is not served by them coming into your life. That doesn't happen very often, but all day long, you're inviting anxiety into your house, inviting it to wreck your furniture, waste the room, to take over your life and take over your house. See, here's the reason this method doesn't work for you too well. But I explain it to you so that it will work. Unless you feel something, you won't do it. See, you've got a lot of excited feelings that go with doing wrong things. You're so excited. Someone mentioned revenge, for example. You're so excited over someone accepting you into the life that you want a certain, what you call a positive feeling, to attend, to go along with your efforts at telling anxiety to get out of your life and stay out. And you expect, therefore, a similar feeling to come into your life when you say that. It isn't going to happen. I've told you that the mind must be changed first. The mind must be changed first, then the feelings follow. Although you can use feelings, and that's another story. If you were to say, anxiety, get out of my life, that's not what I'm here on earth for, any good sentence like that. Say it, and what will happen will be absolutely nothing. Right? But you listen to me. If you tell tension, apprehension, insecurity, if you tell it to get out of your life and you see that nothing happens, that in itself is your perception that you must not expect something to happen, so that you don't falsely hope for the usual wrong attending connected emotions to go along with your original statement, which was right only as yet on the mental level. Oh, I don't want to put up with that stab of pain that went through me when that person affronted me. I did feel bad. All right. But I know that to feel bad is bad. Now, I don't want bad feelings in my life anymore. Oh, wow, what do I do next? I said I don't want them. What do I do next? I've said before that I don't want them. And you lied. Cease to love it, you will cease to have it. So you love it. But now you're beginning to understand that you have to stand all alone at every stage, and this is the mental stage of getting rid of anxiety. I don't want you in my life anymore. You're standing there, nothing happened. You read a positive thinking book that said the heavens are supposed to open and you're supposed to sing. You don't feel like singing. You don't have an emotion at all. Nothing. That is good. That is good to have no feeling. It is good to be blank. To not have any surges of hope. Of saying, I feel better. I was invited. I was accepted. You know what you're doing? You're doing something far more important than you can realize. You're understanding the uselessness of uselessness. Before you called uselessness useful. All these wild feelings that you called your allies, all that you called happiness. People are so happy on their wedding day, huh? What happens? A few days later, the exaltation. You were hoping for that marriage, that romance, that promotion to do something. Could I say it again? Nothing could do anything for you because there's no one there for anything to be done for or against. Understand? When an anxiety passes through you, you are to start treating it the intelligent way. You're to know that it's there, and if you know that it's there, your voice will be automatic and natural and say, I don't want you. It's all right now. Now listen, it's perfectly fine if you say, I don't want you, but I really don't know what to do next. That's all right, as long as you understand that. That is not weakness, that's honesty. It's when you lie and give yourself all these phony solutions that you're going to have. Even that dumb dinner that you have is your solution from unhappiness, right? The snack at the refrigerator becomes your next great pleasure in life. If you will stand all alone, isolated even, on the intellectual level of simply knowing that agitation is wrong for your mind, that is knowledge, that is power, and it is an insight that you have been handling the whole business all wrong all the time. But now you're learning. And what you're learning is that you must be very, very careful that at every step along the way, you must not allow false allies, in this case, wrong emotions, to enter in and say, I will be your friend. I will take over for you. Just let me give you a charge. Just let me thrill you. And that will be your happiness and the dismissal of your anxiety. And you've accepted this invitation millions of times, and the anxiety continues. Therefore, you have been lied to with your consent. Now, look how nice it is just to know that you have done one thing right. What you have done, you've watched yourself very carefully when the bad news came to you. You saw your agitation. You know that agitation can never be right for your true life. You see how it supports your false life. You understand that false life is bad for you. Look what you've done if you stop right there. You have kept that knowledge pure up to that point. You haven't sullied it yet. You haven't wrecked it yet. By nervous anticipation and a habit of wanting to add a thrill to everything that goes on in your mind. You have remained thrillless, isolated, all alone, not grabbing, not being greedy for something next. God alone must be the author of every next. And if you even took this first step and stopped there, I would tell you that God himself was the author of that, because somewhere, way down deep inside, you did indeed get weary of laughing where you shouldn't be laughing, of giving in to wrong things. Somewhere you understood you were doing something wrong. Somewhere it occurred to you that you can't lock yourself up inside yourself anymore. You can't continue with that if you're ever going to set yourself free. And the reason that works is because it gives you a deeper awareness of the fact that you're not free. That urges you to start just a little bit at a time to look for the key. Maybe you'll run across a book. Maybe you'll come to a class. Maybe you'll ask someone a question. All because, well, I better tell you this, all of you here tonight and listening to this talk. I better tell you that as an actual fact, your life is not worth living without God. Let me tell you one reason why I stated it that way. See, the devil is very alert too. You take the statement, life is not worth living, he would twist that and make you think that life is not worth living. I said life is not worth living without God, and it isn't. Everyone proves that. You've proven it yourself. Now let's try it from another viewpoint. Your life is worth living only when you invite God, truth, reality, to give you a new life. Now, if you haven't done that yet, you have wasted your life. You've not been very serious about it, have you? You know what the word frivolous means? Do you know that when your mind chatters, as it does, all day long, all of you, whether you're here new or old, your mind chatters all day long without purpose, without direction, without benefit, and without ceasing. Doesn't it? Doesn't it? Nod your heads, all of you. What a shame. All right? We're here tonight in a place where everything can be different. And I started off, and I'll say it one more time. you can't continue to go on the way you have been unless you like your misery. Unless you like to lie and say that self-enclosure is self-happiness. Your self-enclosure, in which you are the only person there is in the world, that is misery. Tell a man, tell a woman all these things we've talked about so far, and what does he do? What stupid reaction does he have? He gets mad. He gets bored. And he yearns. He really yearns. Sick yearning. He yearns after being taken out of himself just 1 inch tonight, which all of you have, new people. You've been taken out of yourself for 1 inch, and it makes you so uncomfortable. You're not used to anything but living in prison. Well, I can understand it perfectly. Absolutely clear that if you were taken 1 inch out of your precious darling jail cell, you're going to get nervous about it and you're going to get critical. And the whole world does the following. The whole world calls jail freedom, doesn't it? Look how excited people get over being negative, over assaulting someone, especially over pretending that they know what they're doing with their lives. Again, all of you, I know you perfectly. I know how your mind works. I know what lies you tell. And here's a foremost one, and you must see it. You're saying, I know what to do with my life. Now let me make a little correction for you. What you are saying, if it was explained to you, you're saying, I know what to do to keep my life as agitated and as prison-bound as it is. I know what to do. And all I have to do is never accept any challenge to myself, to my life, whatever. Never accept it. Walk out of the door, walk away, never having heard anything, never wanting to hear anything. Don't you think that it's about time you got serious? You're not serious in jail, you're delirious. All people in psychological prison are delirious. As a matter of fact, they're insane. What would you think if I said you're insane? Well, let me tell you what that means. It means you're insane. You compare it with a man walking down the street muttering to himself, who can't take care of himself. That's just one form of insanity. Everyone outside the walls of a nut house is insane too. Oh, let's have a little fun. We just got a minute left. Let's have a little fun. How would you describe yourself? Go ahead. I'll talk kind of slow and casual. And I want each one of you listening to me to describe to yourself the kind of a person you actually are. See, no one's hearing you. Try to be honest. You lie, you know. If you're talking to someone else, you would lie and try to present a good picture to them, right? What kind of picture you want them to see. Now, no one can see what you're thinking. So you describe to yourself what kind of a day you had today, what kind of a whole life you've had. Do you do a lot of fighting with other people? Do you do a lot of fighting with yourself? Sure, a hermit doesn't meet other people, so he doesn't fight, but he fights with himself. Jealousies, suppression, the whole business. So, would you call yourself sane or insane? Which would you do? Now, if you're crazy, which you are, craziness is misery. Let's open the door and tell the world that to be crazy is to be miserable. Who's crazy? I'm happy. He's happy. He's going on strike for more money. He's happy. He's happy he bought a new antique clock and he's happy. The whole world is absolutely mad. Everyone in it. That's why everyone is miserable. Happiness is freedom from insanity. You want to be happy? Stop wasting your mind. Stop wasting your life. Stop wasting your time. Stop wasting everything. Now, your old nature isn't about to do that. That means you're going to have to, against your own will, which is part of the insanity, against your own will, you're going to have to submit yourself to something that is not you. You're going to listen to your own crazy mind for the rest of your life? That proves you're mad. One little candlelight of wholeness, of sanity, is enough to start. You can get it in this room if you want it badly enough. Want it badly enough. Take a break. You've seen it on television, the criminal who breaks into homes and steals or assaults, commits a variety of crimes. When he goes out and the police come, they see a note in lipstick on the mirror, "Catch me before I do it again." Well, sometimes they catch him, sometimes they don't. This is what we write, what we say all the time, unknown to ourselves. Because you suspect that you will do it again, and the suspicion soon proves itself by the word, the action, the thought, the emotion. You've been writing the note to the wrong person. You've been addressing it to yourself, of course, because all you have is yourself. Therefore, the criminal is appealing to the criminal to turn him into a law-abiding citizen who can walk the streets free. Now, we're caught, therefore, by a lack of understanding of why we repeat it, why we do it again, why nothing changes. Does this sound familiar to you? I bump into myself wherever I go. Sound familiar? You bump into the usual reactions, the little nervous things that you do. And there's no authentic change in the way you see, the way you live, the way you feel. All is familiar and all is pretty dull, isn't it? We can find out, we can discover the mistake that we are making, and the discovery of it by itself, the discovery of it is the solution, is the answer. When you see it, that is the action itself. So here's where we're going from here. I'm going to illustrate it with a story, and you'll see why in a minute. Here's a man who lives in a nice home, nice neighborhood. But there's a river nearby, and the river floods out his home, carries it and him away 20 miles downstream, puts him into a different position where he was before. Now listen, we're talking about us, so pay attention. The flood carries him 20 miles away from where he was, and when it happens, he does nothing to go back home. Now we're talking about a very dull man, aren't we? There's something, look, you see, this story will make sense if you understand there's something wrong with the resident of that house, just as there's something wrong with the resident of that house over there and that one over there. The flood carries him away, and he gets very mad at it. He gets angry. What are you doing to me? What's happening to me? Caught in something, taken away. Something stronger than himself takes him, what he says is against my wish, away and takes me downstream. And so he stays where he is. He makes no attempt to go back. Sits there, and let's see. What does he do? What do? You brood. You worry. You're concerned about what's going to happen to you. And the one thing you don't do, you don't make an effort to go back home. I know you don't. That's why you're where you are today. A week later, another flood comes along. Picks him up again, takes another 40 miles downstream. Downhill. Rivers are downhill, right? Downstream, downhill, takes him down to more wasteland, away from where the pretty place where he was originally. And he hates what the river is doing to him. He says, why is this happening to me? Look at all these physical problems I have. Look at all the financial problems, sex problems. I have all these difficulties. And he stays where he is, now 2 places away from his original nice residence. And he stays down there. And he never makes the smallest effort to go back home. Shall I tell you why? Because it's uphill. Pretty easy to go downhill, huh? To agree with people, to agree with yourself and let it go at that and congratulate yourself on intelligent thinking because you agreed to your own neurosis, therefore it must be smart. It isn't smart at all. 3rd month, 3rd flood, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. You know, by the time you get too far away from home, your vision gets blurred. And you look around and you forget the direction the home was in. You knew it the first time, didn't you? Second time maybe, then it gets farther away. You begin to lose directions. You didn't know which way to turn, even if you wanted to go back home. But look, now you're 10 floods away. And a dreadful thing happens to a human being in this state, which is that he becomes very satisfied with wherever the floods take him because he can get emotional, imaginary values out of it. He can do something easy, which is to do nothing constructive, which is to start the hike back, long hike back up home. You understand why we say so much in this room that now is the time? Here's why now is the time, all the time. It's because it is better to catch yourself after the 3rd flood than the 5th. It's better to catch yourself as soon as possible before you go so far that there's no longer any wish, any incentive, any desire in you to wonder what's happening to you and not like what's happening to you and to look around and see how you can get back home. Now, this is the story of humanity. This is the story of our lives. That because we didn't know any better. We were preyed on. Everybody preys on everyone. And the floods of all the confusion take us further away from our original nature. And we crab a lot. We complain a lot. And then we get satisfied with living 1,000 miles downstream. And you have forgotten that little dim bit of wisdom that you had. That wisdom that at the same time had a right sensing to it of quietness, of peace, or you really didn't want to fight anyone or anything anymore, but you forgot it. Now you want to fight. In fact, matter of fact, way on down there, way out in the vast wasteland now you have to fight. And that fighting does not necessarily mean with your fists. It means with your ideas, it means with your attitudes, and it means it with your mouth. Don't you fight to explain yourself to people? Don't you fight so that they'll have a good impression of you? Don't you fight to keep your mask and your costume in place? Fighting. Tired. Very tired at night. Very tired during the day, huh? And there's no rest. And look at this peculiar contradiction now of our man who's way downstream. At the same time, he fears the next flood. He can't live without it. Now, how do you like that for being a double-minded man? Here's why. Listen, we're going to get this. We're going to scare the life out of the devil tonight. If you could see yourself being afraid of the next flood, your boyfriend leaving you, losing your money, not making the money, missing out on some opportunity, if you can see your fear of the next flood, you could also see what you worship. You could also see what you value. You can also see the narcotic that you can't live without, which is the anticipation of the fear of the next flood of being carried away. And besides, look at the marvelous excuse you have for hatred, for lack of self-responsibility. And here it is. Forces beyond my control made me kill that man, made me hate that woman. Something took me over. A flood took me over. Look, you see the flood. You see this horrible world we live in. This flood of this sick world took me over. Naturally, I'm this way. You made me that way. See, that is the cry of the coward. That is the excuse that everybody gives. You don't know. I've written it in the books, and people still don't know it. How completely childish everyone is. You'll leap at the smallest excuse, the smallest lie, to make yourself look right and the other person wrong. And it doesn't do you a bit of good. But here's our man, not having the time of his life, waiting for the next opportunity to express his violence, so that he can put the small smile on his face as he sees that he's hurt his wife. He said something or did something that hurt his girlfriend, hurt his mother, hurt his father, hurt anybody. But I'm talking in that little bit about man's cruelty to woman, which is pretty widespread, ladies, huh? And why'd you get mixed up with him anyway? That's the next question, right? All right. What's the flood? What's it made out of? Let's look and see if we can find out the nature of the flood that takes us away, carries us away to the point where we fall in love with its recurrence. So the hundreds of floodings that we have all day long that make us nervous, hopeless, so that we look forward to the next one. What's it all about? Now, I'll tell you what the flood is. It's time. It's time thinking. It's ideas. It's belief, it's opinions, it's yourself. But to make it clear, the flood is the flood of time that took you over because you're unaware, took you over again, until you got so immersed in, so pleased with, so excited about living in time, you had no wish, inclination, strength, or energy to take the journey back home to now. Look at it. You slip. You shake a little bit. What happened? You were flooded, weren't you? What were you flooded by? Time thinking? Break it down a little closer. Nothing wrong with memory. Nothing wrong with memory. No. What you have to do tomorrow, mow the lawn or go to town or whatever. Nothing wrong with memory. Memory of itself, originally pure, serves a practical purpose. But in our original immaturity, in our lack of inner development, in being born imperfect in an imperfect world, there's a part of us that has a tendency to do the wrong thing with every part of our nature. The physical body, whatever we do wrong with that. But one thing wrong that happens is that the mind forms you, a self, out of memories. I, 20 years ago, did this. Something good, something bad, something exciting, something boring, something criminal, something nice, whatever. You were flooded wrongly by time when you forget to keep memory pure of self-thoughts. How many of you have regrets of dumb things you did 10 minutes ago, 40 years ago, right? Regrets. Now, how could you regret, this is for example, you understand, how could you regret anything unless you had something to regret? Now, if you have something to regret, to feel sorry, to feel sorry over, that means that you have not noticed how you got flooded with a description of yourself, an idea of yourself, an identity of yourself. You don't see how you did not keep memory pure, but allowed an I thought to connect with it, and you were flooded by time, and you went back, and the very thinking of the incident, that shameful thing, foolish thing, dangerous thing that you did, the memory connects. Now listen carefully. The memory of the event cannot harm you. There's no harm in remembering what happened 10 years ago. The danger, which you don't see as danger because you love the thrill of the danger, is when you allow another thought, besides the memory thought, another thought, a self-thought, I thought, to combine with memory, and now you say, I am terrible for what I did 10 years ago. And you know that flood was just 1 out of 10,000, right? How many did more than one foolish thing in your life? 2. Is it any wonder we're 1,000 miles from home? Now we're getting it. And here we bring in another important word. You know what it's called? It's called carelessness. See, if you understood what I've explained to you, you would watch the process while it's going on during the day, and the thought of that incident. It doesn't necessarily have to be what you call a negative one. It could be a positive negative one, where you got self-glory out of something, and you went back to that and wanted to relive that again. You could have remembered the incident where you were the star in the class play, the high school play, and you got all that applause and the right up. Nothing good happened to you since then. So you have to go back, right? So you go back to where you're the star of the show. Now look, I'm giving you an exercise. The next time you remember yourself, you know, you girls, you had that pretty dress on, and you were the lead in the play, the ingenue, I guess they call it. I can't spell it. And then you're on the stage, and you think of that. Now, keep it pure. That event happened. Oh, you're going to have to be very brave. Oh, how brave you're going to have to be. Yeah, I stood on the stage when I was 18 years old in high school. I stood on the stage in the pretty dress and the little star and my helmet or whatever. And everybody applauded me. It happened, but it didn't happen to me. Well, you tell me who it happened to. It didn't happen to you. Who are you? It happened. Why do you insist that it happened to you? That's why you're in pain. That's why you can continue to get flooded every day, and you go farther and farther away from home. I have just told you the first step to going back home to now. To where it's pure. See, There's no you to live in your own house, which makes it happy house. Have you ever noticed that the more there is of you in your house, the more miserable it gets? Then you add your husband or wife, and it gets even worse, because now you have two imaginary people living in there. Your part is to understand what I've explained. I'll tell you, the way to conquer your false love for being carried away by floods, negative floods, which is a negative thing. The way to conquer, to use that word isn't quite right, but we have to use words. The way to conquer a negative flood of self-reference is to let it be conquered by a higher emotion. Now, I'll tell you what one such higher emotion is. Boy, if the world hear this, they wouldn't know what to do with it. A higher emotion is to no longer love being you. All right, change it just a little bit. A higher feeling, a stronger emotion that can guide you back home is to no longer love your idea of who you are. How much can you do in the following exercise? Now, you really have to do it. You have to see it. You can't just listen to me talk about it. Can you really understand, ladies, when you were the star of the play in high school, and gentlemen, when you were the hero on Guadalcanal in the battle, when you were a hero and got the medal, can you understand once and for all, and finally and forever, that you were not doing anything? You have to understand, therefore, that the worst thing you can do against yourself is to be falsely for yourself.